AZ Court Help Legal Talks presents Someone is Suing Me, What Do I Do Now?
Kind of a broad overview of a lawsuit. So a lawsuit has 5 basic steps. There's going to be the complaint, which is the person suing. They're just saying, here's why I'm suing. The answer, which in this scenario is your response. This is what you're saying back to that complaint. There's then discovery, which is when both sides try to get as much information from each other as possible to better inform their claim. It will then go to trial, possibly. There's a lot of different ways for it to end, but very often there's a trial where the judge makes the decision, and then that decision is the judgment. And the judgment will come out, and that says this person owes this person. Something towards that. And as you see highlighted here, today we're going to focus on the complaint and answer. These are the first 2 steps. They have pretty strict timelines. After these, the timeline gets a little more vague. There's more court involvement. But most of the scenarios we see at DNA is someone comes into our office with a complaint and they need to file an answer. So, as you can see here, we've got a little example of a complaint. Complaint tells you a number of things. First of all, it's going to tell you who is suing you. And that's going to be this blank line here. First thing you're going to see is, who is this person? Do I recognize this person, this company? Is it someone who I've taken a loan from? Someone who I was in a vehicle accident with? Further down in the complaint, there will be a section called parties where it will further describe. As I've made a note here, lenders a lot of times change hands. You may have a car loan, a credit card, and after that hasn't been paid for a while, the company will sell it to another company who then specializes in going to court. So you may not recognize the name at first, but if you go through the complaint under parties, it should explain who they are and why they have an interest in this loan. Along that same line, why are they suing me? This will be, it'll start here, there will be a jurisdiction, there will be a complaint. It'll say, this person took out a loan, it'll probably have attached, or this person was in an accident, it'll have the police report attached, and this is why we're suing them. It'll have legal claims, and it'll have a little bit of factual basis. And what do they want? A lot of times this will fall under the legal claims. They'll say, we want the amount. We're suing for these damages. There were medical damages. With loans, it's more straightforward. It will be the amount for the loan, plus they'll probably ask for some fees and costs and interest rates, which is something that we're going to keep in mind and talk about a little later. What court am I in? That's going to be right up here at the top. And just to go over this really quickly, this will be your court. In the very top left-hand corner will be the attorney, or if the person is handling the lawsuit themselves. This will be the party who's suing you's name, and this will be you and anyone else that they believe is involved. A lot of time this is a co-signer on a lease or a spouse. So if you look up here, it will say State of Arizona, and it will say Superior Court, Justice Court, Small Claims, or Family Court. And it will also give you a city or a county. A lot of times this city or county may not be where you live. If you live here in Flagstaff and you drive down to Phoenix to buy a car, and then you don't pay on that car and they decide to sue you, it will most likely be down in Maricopa County. The main differences between the courts here is Superior Justice and Small Claims are all very similar courts. They're courts of general jurisdiction. That means that they'll cover most any civil lawsuit, anything that's not a crime. The difference will be is if the amount in question is over $10,000, it will be in Superior Court. If it's under $10,000, it will be in Justice Court. And if it's under $3,500, it can be in Small Claims. Small Claims is a simplified court with no attorneys. If either party wants an attorney, they can then move it up to Justice Court. Family court is a separate matter. This is child support, divorces, custody issues, adoptions, any of those things will be in family court. Family court, similar to small claims, is designed for the parties to appear without attorneys. The forms are simplified. You can get them here at the law library. And it's really geared towards allowing the parties to work it out between each other without lawyers. A lot of times what we see is people needing to file an answer. You'll have with your complaint, you're going to have your summons, and that's going to tell you how long you have to file an answer. It's very usually 20 days. And what you give in your answer is you go down, and you can see here, point by point, in the complaint, each paragraph will be numbered, and you address each of those individually. The court will, anything not addressed, they'll assume that you agree with it. So make sure to address every single thing you see. And you can deny them. So if they say you did this, and you say you didn't, you can say, I deny this. You can also raise other defenses, which we'll get into. You can say another person should be liable. Any response you have should be in this document. These are the initial two documents that the court is going to be looking at. Okay, party A says this happened, party B says this happened. Where is the conflict? And what is the ruling law? In addition to an answer, this is a more complicated matter. I encourage anyone considering these to come into ourselves. The law library can also help you out, not with legal advice, but with pointing you in the right direction. You can ask to dismiss. So if they're in the wrong court, so you buy a car in Phoenix, you bring it up here to Flagstaff, you don't pay, the loan gets sold to a company in California, they can't take you to court in California. They have to be either where you are or where the car was purchased. Something relating to the matter has to have happened for it to be in that court. Wrong venue, this is a similar one. If they want to try to drag you out of state or to a different court, insufficient process, there's a certain, the answer needs to be mailed to you certified mail, needs to be handed to you. If you didn't get the answer and just hear about it from another person or something like that, you might have an issue with the process or service of process. Failure to state a claim, that's, you're saying that they don't actually have an interest, there wasn't an issue. And then failure to join a party is that there's somebody else involved. If there were 3 parties in the car accident, if there was a co-signer, something like that. The court wants everyone involved so they don't have to keep doing the same lawsuit over and over again. And these are just something to let you know these are available. It would be too complicated to go through all of them today, but if you come to the law library or to DNA or wherever you are, the legal services can help you out with these type of things. If you're really not sure what's going on, you can ask for a more definite statement. You can ask them to say, hey, I don't really know what loan this is or what incident this was. You only gave me a couple paragraphs. I'd like a little more for me to respond. And a motion to strike. We see this a lot with people representing themselves. They're mad. They've got a lot of emotions. They're going to include mean things about you. You can ask the court to remove those. Anything that is immaterial, impertinent, redundant, scandalous. Essentially, if they're saying mean things in the complaint just to say them, to try to make you look bad, and they're not related to the claim, then you can ask the court to get rid of those. You don't need to have that on record throughout the entire trial. Other considerations, attorney's fees and costs. In Arizona, if you lose a lawsuit that's over a contract, so a loan, something like that, the court has the option of giving attorney's fees and costs to the other party, and you have to pay those. So if you get a complaint, they say, hey, you didn't pay, it's something to consider that the longer you drag it out, the higher those costs are going to rise. And if you really know that this is something that you owe, you may just be running up these fees and costs, and you know, these costs can be, you know, $300-400 an hour for some attorneys. And the court might add that amount on to the end. So it's something to consider. Bankruptcy. A lot of clients that we see, bankruptcy is the better option. Bankruptcy can be a cheaper alternative to quash debts, to be able to still keep your home, anything like that. It's an alternative worth looking into. It's not for everyone, but it is something to consider. Last is settlement negotiations. A lot of these companies, they know that they're probably never going to get the full amount that they want, but they'd like something out of this. The earlier that you can try to negotiate a settlement, the better. Once the company has sunk a bunch of time, attorney's fees, going to court, all these things in, they're going to be less likely to settle. Ideally, what we tell clients is it's best to try to start settlement negotiations before you even get the complaint. When you get that first demand letter, especially for you know, debts, something like that, when you get that first demand letter from the credit card company, from the car loan, from the mobile home loan, saying they are planning on taking you to court, communicate with them. Let them know your situation, see what you can work out. The earlier the better with those. And then resources. Here at the Law Library and us at DNA People's Legal Services, for those in Flagstaff, we're over on the sunny side behind the Sonic off of 4th Avenue. We're there to help. We do intake every Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Just come in, we'll get your information and get you started. The Coconino Law Library is right next to the courthouse, and I believe you're open 8 to 5? Mm-hmm. 8 to 5. They can't give you legal advice, but they have a lot of great resources to help you along.